We've got about 15 minutes. Chairman Blackman has a rules substitute for Senate Bill 361. You have it on your desk. It's LC 432436S. 432436S. Chairman Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This deemed the Less Crime Act passed through, and the rule substitute based on what you have before you makes a couple of changes. It lowers the threshold to 75 million as the cap, which is consistent with where we put the rural hospital tax credit, and then it takes the number down to 3 million for each foundation. So the bill is designed to funnel these income tax credits to our local law enforcement. It does not include salaries. Be happy to try to take any questions. It is one-to-one, but it does provide some additional funding for local law enforcement and allows them to use that in a manner in which they see fit. There are some qualified expenditures listed. I could go into further detail, Mr. Chairman, but it has been vetted at the committee level. We've had 2 hearings and a full committee hearing as well.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Do I hear a move we pass rules substitute for Senate Bill 361 LC 432436S? Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. It passed. All right, Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the
Hold on one second. That is SR 135, rule substitute 365322S.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the sports betting bill and the sports betting bill only. This is exactly the way that it came out of the Senate. Divides up the proceeds, if you will, for 50% going to education and rural health care and also for broadband development. And again, this makes in the constitutional amendment only sports betting.
Okay, Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Stevens, I'm looking on page 4, line 84, and it says at least 50% to need-based scholarships. Does that refer to Hope scholarships, and if so, is that a change from our merit-based system currently?
This is an opportunity fund that we talked about earlier, and yes, it applies to anybody that's essentially is the Hope Scholarship for an opportunity fund, needs-based, as you call it. For the way we had it described in the bill is going to be 50% going to needs-based, which is if you're in the mean income and below, you would apply for that. And in the bill, which you don't have in front of you, it's 50% Hope and pre-K traditional.
Okay, thank you.
Goodness. Who's number 28? Martin? Chairman Martin.
To Chairman Stevens, again, I'm in that same thing. Is you say at least 50%, so that could be 100%, correct?
No, sir. The enabling legislation that you'll see, it's in here as well. The enabling legislation is 50% traditional Hope and pre-K, 50% is the opportunity fund.
I understand, just follow if I can, but constitutionally, it could go to 100%.
If somebody were to change a bill, yes, sir, that is exactly possible, but the enabling legislation, as I said, is 50-50.
Okay, that.
Who's 45? Okay. You're not back there. Chairlady Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my chairman, my question goes to what impact does it have on the existing formula that is used for Hope scholarships now?
I guess I'm going to have to go back to the enabling legislation again. Half of the money collected, which we do not collect today, will go to traditional Hope and pre-K. On the traditional formula, those that are in families below a 50th percentile in their income will go to an opportunity fund that they can use for GAP, the difference in what the tuition cost versus what tuition is paying.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for further clarifying for me. I guess my question goes to, are we diminishing as it exists now, the Hope Scholarship?
We're adding two. Thank you. We're adding, that's a very good question. We're adding at least $50 million to traditional Hope and pre-K as it is today. And we're also adding, because there's none today, an opportunity fund for those that we're calling it GAP funding to make up for the difference. But it fits as it does today, and we're adding money, not taking away.
Okay, Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the author of the bill. I just wanted to thank you for this 50% for the Opportunity Fund, because Georgia does not have a source for needs-based scholarships, and we're one of the few states that does not, and it's going to mean so much to so many of our young people. Many of them can pay tuition, but they don't have money they're sleeping on a couch of their friends. They don't have money for room and board and some of the other things. So this will be a game changer for a lot of our students.
Chairlady Ballard, shoot. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Stevens, I was looking at the sports betting legislation that came out of this committee last year. Is that House Bill 86?
We did not, yeah, that bill has not been moved on. We have used the Senate version and have gone through several hundred hours to perfect that. The 86 is not being considered at all.
So I see that it was just withdrawn, it looks like on sine die last year, and that was legislation that allowed for sports betting and did not have a constitutional amendment attached to it. Why has there been a change?
The Senate believes, and there is some question whether this needs a constitutional amendment at all, but they also believe that out of an abundance of caution, because this is lottery money, that we put a constitutional amendment out there for people to vote on this issue, even though they are doing sports betting today.
Okay, one more question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
ma'am, go ahead.
On lines 15 and 17 of your bill, you include sports betting. You also have the language including but not limited to sports betting. Why is that language included?
We will be visiting also fantasy sports, which is different than sports betting, but we decided not to place it into this bill. But sports betting is the only thing that will be in the legislation. There'll be nothing else.
So just one more follow-up question. Does this open the door to any other kinds of gambling?
It does not.
So you think that the including but not limited to language would just allow for fantasy but nothing else?
Possibly something like on the order of a iSports or eSports, which is also not defined. But no, this does not open up to those other games of chance. No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author, I guess you've referred to GAP funding a few times. So will this be open to any individual that falls under that income level and they go to college, or do you have to qualify for Hope first and then this will cover the gap between Hope and Zell?
This is education money just as we have today, but this, I refer to it as GAP money for those that For example, those people that are in pre-K that can't get a pre-K education, a Head Start, those are on a lottery basis. This fund would also apply to them if they're in the 50th percentile or below. There are folks that can't afford to pay for pre-K. This fund would do that. For that foster child that can't afford the gap between what, again, tuition costs and what it pays, this gives them the opportunity, because they've kept a B average, as Zell Miller has promised. You keep a B average and you'll get a higher education. This gives them the opportunity as well, which is why we call it the Opportunity Fund.
Okay. Can I
One more
follow-
question.
One question, I'm sorry, just a clarification. So I'll give you an example. A student has a 2.8 and is at Georgia Tech studying nuclear biology or whatever, I don't know, whatever, but they do not qualify for HOPE. Will they qualify for this Opportunity Fund if they make less than the median family income?
Yes, they will.
Okay, thank you.
And as you might have already know, a 2.5 gets you a Hope Scholarship in technical college.
Okay. Dr. Hawkins.
Thanks. To the author, you in this bill really you're not creating a new type of gambling in this state, I don't believe, but rather looking for a way to fund health care, greater funds for health care and educational funding. Is that true?
That is exactly right. Today, this is an app on your phone. 33 states are doing this today. Last year it was 25 when we got the bill. So as you can tell on page 1, it makes it very clear the only thing that we're adding to this Constitution is sports betting, and that is all. And this will capture and regulate for the first time something that we're doing today already. So very good question. Thank you.
Mr. Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author, how much money is this expected to raise?
About $100 million based on what they're doing in Tennessee.
Okay, so you think about that. I asked the question, Mr. Chairman. I mean, $100 million is in the scale of a $40 billion budget. I don't know this is a line item that needs sports betting to fund it. I asked the question, if you have a family, you know, we're looking at our revenue being very strong. Do we need sports betting? If these are priorities that need to be funded, do we need sports betting to fund them? I'm not sure that we do.
The purpose of the constitutional amendment is to capture the revenue and, most importantly, regulate, because the things that are going on in Antigua and some other Caribbean countries allow for charge accounts. Our bill will not. It is a cash basis. So no one will be allowed to run up a charge account bill or even use a charge card. This will capture and regulate something that's going on today, and I believe we need to do it.
One further question, if I could, Mr. Chairman. If there was a family that you were mentoring, and you knew that had $500,000, let's say, in their life savings, they were going into retirement, would you advise them to invest their retirement savings in sports betting as an investment proposition?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Okay, let's go on. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want Mr. Chairman Stevens, for you to be able to just clarify for the audience here. In the constitutional amendment, on page 4, I see where the proceeds, it's spelled out that they would go at least 50% to needs-based scholarships, B, rural health care, C, deployment of broadband services. Where does it say that any of it would go to Hope Grant, Hope Scholarship, or pre-K? Because it's not mentioned in the question. The question would lead one to believe that it only goes to needs-based educational funding, rural health care, and deployment of broadband.
We ran that question by Ledge Council to see if we needed to make a change in that language, and she said that it fit our bill exactly the way that it is today. And the bill has 50% traditional Hope and pre-K and 50% in the bill to an opportunity fund.
Okay, and because I just want to, where does it mention that 50% would go to traditional?
If the lady's suggestion we send this back to committee to put that in there plainly, I have no problem with that.
I'm just trying to read. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. In the Opportunity Fund, I see there's scholarships. Would that money be able to be used for capital projects as well? Or is it just money going straight to the to students and student family? But could that money be used for sort of capital outlay on projects as well?
As it is today, that's one of the listings, and we'll see that, of course, in the enabling legislation. And it follows, again, the way that we spend our money today on Hope.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the author of the bill. As far as lots of money being around, is it not so that there are several schools in this state schools now, that are experiencing 20-25% dropouts because of the lack of gap funding?
That is correct.
Who's 61 back there? Dr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author, I guess back to line 84 about the at least 50%. Could you explain if was there when you started with at least, was there an upper limit on what you thought that would be, or was there a reason you wanted to leave it to where it could go to 60, 80, 90, or is there something understood that it will not be more than 50?
In the enabling legislation, it's 50-50, 50 traditional, 50 to the Opportunity Fund.
Why would you not just put 50 in the, if you don't mind?
This was the way that came from the Senate.
Well, that shows the problem. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Stevens, I was looking at the House website, and the LC number is reported out of Economic Development and Tourism, and it's a different LC number than the
House will stand at ease until 2 p.m. House will stand at ease until 2 p.m.
Okay, wait, he's tilted. You go ahead.
It was a voice from above, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Chairman Stevens, I was looking at the website. As what it's reporting is the SR that came out of Economic Development and Tourism, and it has a different LC number than this one. Is this a Rules Committee substitute, or is this what the committee reported out?
This is a Rules Committee substitute.
What is the difference between the one the committee reported out and the Rules Committee substitute? That's what I was trying to determine.
The biggest change has to do with other forms of gaming that in the future would allow this General Assembly to go back and allow for local control. This does not allow that. This says that essentially these are going to be the things that the people are going to vote on, and if it has anything else that we do, it has to go back to the people.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell. Is that you? Oh, Martin.
Thank you. Chairman Stevens, I want to go back again and visit the proceeds section. The way I read this is for paragraph A, which is the grants, loans, and citizens, at least 50%, correct? Correct. Okay, so, and then it says, and B, which is rural health services, that'll get some of what's left over, correct?
Correct.
And then C, that'll get some of what's left over, correct?
Correct.
And then, so there's really nothing guaranteeing any of it going to the traditional Hope out of this pot, correct?
Again, if the gentleman,
I'm just talking about in the constitutional requirement. Is that not true? There's none guaranteed. And then I would like to, the current Constitution, ask the gentleman if he goes back on page 3 of the bill, where it's fairly clear there are multiple uses for the current revenue stream from the lottery, one of which, number 1 on line 42, is tuition grants, scholarships, and loans, and that's not silent as to whether that's merit or needs-based, correct? Current funding could be used on gap funding and needs-based by statute? Isn't that true?
I'm following you're saying on line 42?
Line 42, the current funding stream from the current lottery can go to tuition, grants, scholarships, or loans to citizens of this state to enable such citizens to attend university. That doesn't say it's merit-based, it's needs-based, it just says that. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
And it would be set by statute. So my question is, why do we constitutionally guarantee a needs-based percentage with a bottom number but not a top, when the current funding mechanism says that the priority, and I draw the gentleman's attention to lines 58 through 61 of the current Constitution as amended if this bill passes, that says these other things that can be done in paragraphs 3, 4, and 5 on lines 47 through 57 would say you can spend money on other things as long as you do the first priority, which is voluntary pre-K and tuition and grants. I don't understand why the revenue stream from sports betting doesn't go and give priority to those two things, because it's not true. We're not fully funding the merit-based Hope Scholarship now. Just this year, the governor has gotten that back up to a base of 90. So my question is, why we do not protect the promises that we have made in the past and had to cut back before we guarantee a section of it in the Constitution go into a gap funding. And again, I carry a gap funding bill this year. I understand there's a need for that, but we have a constitutional guarantee for one portion that is, we could do that by statute today, isn't it true? And yet we're giving it a constitutional guarantee, but we're not giving the merit-based Hope Scholarship the same protection.
The bill is following, as I said earlier, is going to be 50% to traditional Hope and pre-K. Period. So that's going to put another $50 million. Granted, not a huge amount of money, but it is more than we're getting today. This is all new revenue. And this is revenue.
I'll complete the question, Mr. Chairman, because I know you don't want to debate in here, but we're giving constitutional protections in this bill to one class of Georgians over another.
Yeah,
and
can
we can do that.
Can I interrupt? We're going to give you all a chance to meet with the sponsor of the bill and let him answer any questions that may be there. And once a decision is made, then we'll decide its fate. Okay? All right. So remember, you keep your copy of the LC with LC 365322S. So you'll have a chance to read it. You got a committee day tomorrow, so you'll have plenty of time to take a look at it, and then during that same time, you'll have a chance to meet with the sponsor to answer any questions. We're going to set the supplemental calendar for today. Ambassador, do you have a question? Okay.
Strategic need for this type of language, so, but I'll hear to the chairman of the rules, and I'll talk with him privately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. We're ready to set the supplemental calendar for today. Okay, Senate Bill 319. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Well, let's do this a little different then. Senate Bill 319, its own. Senate Bill 374, its own. Senate Bill 379, its own. Senate Bill 361 by rule substitute 432436S, its own. Meeting adjourned.